My favorite tool in a creative structure is simply say, listen, let me master lease your property with the right to buy it in the future. Give me a 5-year master lease on performance. I'll give you 80% of 75, 80% of the rent I collect off the property. Its title stays in your name. You're protected, Mr. Seller. Because the title's in your name, you still got to insure it and pay taxes on it. All the little stuff that goes wrong up to a few $100 every month, I'll deal with. I'll put it out for rent. I'll manage it so you can escape the thrill of management. I'll take on that. And then I'll just handle the property.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and this is Unveiling Journeys. Welcome to my podcast. I am so excited to have you back. If you've been before, if this is your first time, welcome. A little bit about me. I absolutely love getting to know people and hearing their stories and meeting people through high-level networking groups and like events and so forth. So with that, that is exactly how I got to meet my friend that's coming here today. Through the power of networking, usually is how I meet people, and we met at an event. So I am a product of the seminar system in the seminar world with learning how to flip houses when I was 22 back in the day, and that evolved into a bunch of other events. So we met, and I thought, oh my gosh, what do you do? Tell me. And of course, mind blowing, all of the incredible things that he's working on that I had to bring him on as a guest today. And I love to hear his heart and his story. So, with that, Jeff Watson, welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about you and your story.
It's my privilege and my pleasure to be here. My name's Jeff. I'm a real estate investor. Been a real estate investor for 31 years. Buy and hold kind of guy. Did some fixes and flips. Figured out that wasn't for me. And I knew buy and hold was the way to go because I'd seen an uncle do very well with buy and hold. And I knew that it was a whole lot better than swapping hours for dollars as a trial attorney is what I was doing for my day gig. So I was trying to take those dollars that I was making as a lawyer and put them into something that would continue to work when I didn't want to. So I got into buy and hold real estate 31 years ago. Been practicing law for 34 years, licensed only in the state of Ohio. And I've had a really, really interesting legal career. Lot of different things I've done. And just it's been a hoot. That's all I'll say.
Oh, man. That's like such a humble way to say all the incredible things you've done. Let's do this. Tell me from the beginning, you were born on a sunny Tuesday. No. Where are you from? Where were you raised? And did you want to be a trial attorney when you grew up?
Oh, well, okay, let me give you the bullet. Conceived and born in California.
There you go.
Didn't have much to do with that. At the age of 5, was moved by my mom and her husband from California to Boulder, Colorado, then to Longmont, Colorado. And then in the beginning stages of the 8th grade, right in the middle of that really awful thing we call junior high, family decided to move again from Longmont, Colorado to a town in Northeast Ohio called Conneaut. And most people have no idea how to spell it or pronounce it. Conneaut. They're in the state of Ohio, the far northeast tip of the state. If you go any further north, you're all wet in Lake Erie. You go any further east, you're in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Grew up there from the 8th grade, and I still have a primary residence there in that small town. Did a long stint in downtown Cleveland, first at Cleveland State University, grad school, then law school, and then worked at a firm in downtown Cleveland. And then after about 13 years as a senior associate at a firm where I realized that there's just no way they were ever going to pay me what I was worth. I took the jump, took the plunge, went solo practice. I took a
What were you doing at that firm? Like, what was the decision that was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to do this forever?
Oh yeah, that was easy. So this firm was a boutique law firm that we were really good at workers' compensation and personal injury work, medical legal litigation. And I got dang good at it to the point other lawyers from other firms would hire me to argue their cases. And, it was there that during that litigation phase, that I got involved in about 3 cases that worked their way up. One went to the Ohio Supreme Court. We changed the law on childhood sexual abuse statute of limitations. We did another case that changed the law regarding the fleeing felon exception under the Ohio Victim of Crimes. Then we had 2 more. One was regarding how you get medical evidence and medical testimony into evidence in a case against Progressive Insurance. And then that one went up to the Court of Appeals and they affirmed the decision and so on. And then we had one more business litigation case that I tried halfway at that firm and then halfway on my own that some textbooks have picked up and they've repeated it a dozen times. Of course, they have no idea what the case was really about, but whatever. Those were those things. And then once I was in private practice, the real estate bug really started digging in deeper because I'd go to real estate seminars and I'd look at the quality of the legal paperwork being done and I'd go, "This is garbage. This is garbage." And I
What
could
makes
tell
me
who was
think about all.
plagiarizing from who.
Yeah, it was like back in the day, my first seminar was, nothing down in the 80s, Robert Allen. It was just like a contract in the back of the book he ripped out, and you could just say, "Hey, let me write you an offer or a letter of intent," or like, "I want to buy your house now." And none of that held up in court in California, right? But like in Florida, almost anything goes. So I
Oh, it
imagine
was
you were
I
like,
mean, I figured out who was stealing who from whose docks, from Lou, from Larry, from Ron, from Jeff, from Fred, from Smith, from Bill. It was
you
it
said
was
5 names I know because they are the OGs of this.
and I could figure out because I could read and I could see who was keeping the same typos and so nobody was editing their stuff, which just drove me nuts and drives my assistant absolutely nuts. Mm, I'll just jump around a little bit. We did a transaction for a mutual friend of ours by the name of Eddie, a few years ago, where a Wall Street law firm was representing this hedge fund, and my little office is representing the buyer. And my assistant saw the crap that came out of this Wall Street firm on a huge transaction. She fixed all their typos, fixed their misspelling, fixed the formatting, and said, "This is what we're going to use, not your crap." She's too polite to use those words. Sent it back to them and said, "This is what we're using." And they said, "Fine." So, I mean, don't, that I've got a fantastic assistant, just, you know, fantastic. So, I've done a lot of things. I mean, my first real popularity thing was a couple of friends and I were figuring out how to do short sales in the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
Northeast Ohio real estate market tipped over and went south in 2004, 2005. Most of us didn't know it till '06, but by then we were really good at short sales. Went to a short sale event in '04. Met a guy by the name of Greg. He and I are still business together. We founded a company called Real Flow. Real Flow is a huge, massive CRM for real estate investors, white labeled by dozens and dozens of other gurus and marketers and trainers. We got really good at short sales. And I came up with a far more efficient way of doing it. And it wasn't just my idea. The late Bob Middleton and his wife came up with some of the ideas, and I put the paperwork together. And Tiffany, no joke, I went from being just an average guy in Northeast Ohio that knew how to try cases and do stuff to all of a sudden everybody and their brother wanted to talk to me about how to do a short sale using an option contract method. And, I was on webinar after webinar, 1,000 people plug in and so on. It was the maximum amount you could get on a call at that time. And you know, imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, right?
yeah,
So it didn't take too long before they published a black book on short sales and it took off. And then my stuff started showing up in every other guru's courses. Of course, there were no typos to track it with because my assistant made sure my stuff was really good. Other gurus started taking it and using it and they didn't know how to do it. And then I'd see people dumb it down and water it down. And I realized, okay, you're going to have this problem with it. They'd call me and say, "How do you fix this?" I said, well, this is what you get for stealing my stuff. You didn't understand how to do this. Here's how you fix it.
right.
Then it went from there. And then I got to tell you, I got to where I didn't want to hear the phone ring anymore because it was just nothing but nonstop questions about how to do short sales. And then one day I go at the invite of Eddie Speed to an event he's teaching in Denver, Colorado. And as I hear him talking about buying defaulted promissory notes,
Mm,
I went from being that guy who was figuring out a better way to beg for more scoop, more gruel in my bowl. "Please, Mr. Bank, can I get a bigger discount?"
yeah,
To buy the paper
yeah,
and work the deal.
yeah. It changed my entire perspective of real estate investing. Literally, Ben is like, "Tiff, why are you being a landlord? I bet you're tired." I'm like, "Oh, excuse me, defend, defend." Like when I sat down at home and chewed on it, I thought, "Oh my gosh, he's right." The biggest buildings in every downtown, they're the banks. They don't own the property, they own the paper. Why don't you own the paper, Tiff? I'm like, "I don't know. Nobody ever taught me." And like to understand you could be behind all this paper, negotiate the paper, and yeah,
Oh, yeah, when you can buy it at a discount, and then negotiate it or modify it. Yeah, I mean, it gets to be some pretty outrageous results. I mean, I began to understand the power of paper and selling a partial off of a performing note in order to raise capital to get rid of a bleeding landlord property, different things that came out. And I mean, folks, if you don't understand what Tiff and I are talking about, then do yourself this little favor. Run an amortization calculation, run an amortization schedule, and look to see what the principal balance is with, say, an 8% rate, 8% interest rate on $300,000 over 360 months. 12 years in, what's the principal balance still owed? And look
Insane.
at how much has been paid.
Mhm. And people are like, well, why would a bank sell a note to you, Tiffany, at a discount? Like, wait a minute. Yeah, exactly. Pull out that amortization calculator and realize how much profit they've taken, and they're still cutting in on profit. But also, they may want a different type of a deal. Like, any reason that you could think up as to why we can negotiate for paper is an option. They don't have yeah.
I was on a call today, Tiffany, where an underwriter for Freddie Mac is literally crapping his drawers over one unit in 300 over that had a kitchen fire as to whether it's going to affect whether they can take this new loan that's been paying for 6 months and put it into a syndication.
That's tight.
One unit out of 300. I mean, you want to talk about a tiny little scratch and a dent,
Mhm.
but it may make that scratch and dent paper. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah. Man, that's incredible. So you leave your previous practice, you go solo, attending some real estate seminars, seeing the paperwork, now capitalizing, you're getting out of the short sale space, you go into paper and you see this. What happens
Yeah,
next?
yeah. Going to paper, and then that was a transition both in my other world that I do, which is advocacy for seller finance on Capitol Hill. I started out because of short sales, and Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae put out an underwriting bulletin that pretty much just said, we don't like Jeff Watson's option contract. Well, yeah, they painted a nice little target on me, and then they came up with then Bank of America and everybody else came up with these ingenious ideas of, oh, well, we'll just put a deed restriction in the short sale approval letter that says you can't resell the property for 90 or 120 days. And so we fought back, hired a lobbyist, got in front of the right couple of members of Congress, and then that 30-day deed restriction that we may still see, I wrote that. I wrote that. And so, yeah, on a defaulted property, short sale deal, whatever, yeah, you can't flip it for the first 30 days. Day 31, you can flip it for a 20% profit. Day 91, unlimited profit. I think that's a whole lot better than you can't do anything with it for 120 days. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better, you know?
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
people wonder, like, who's advocating for this? Like, the people who care this bad, because it wasn't easy to go make all this happen, go all the way up that high, write all this out, and then propose this to actually make it come true.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that was an eye-opening experience learning how Washington, D.C. worked. It's and then I've had multiple events since then where I've had to be in DC and advocate. We pushed for um, extending the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act. We were a huge part of a huge chorus of voices asking to do that. That was great. And then a few years ago, you might have remember about this Build Back Better bill being introduced in the first year of the Biden administration. So we're talking only 4 years ago. It would have decimated and gutted the self-directed IRA industry.
That's like our
There were two
space.
sections in there regarding fair market value and appraisals, and had to be fair fair market, and anybody else had to be able to have similar access to those same kind of deals. So no private lending, no small businesses funded with IRA money, none of that. That was all going to be taken away.
Ugh.
And my good friend John Heyer and he created the website. He and I created the copy. We did videos. We put it there. We identified a list of 8 moderate, semi-moderate Dems because the Democrats had the majority. They had the House, they had the Senate, they had the White House. So we went after these 8 Dems, and then I used the relationships with the Seller Finance Coalition lobbying team. Got to DC, had meetings, 3 different members of Congress, 3 different Dems in one day. And at the end of the last meeting, I'm looking at my watch going, not my watch, I'm looking at my phone because my clock on there. I'm going, I'm missing my flight. I'm going to miss my flight. I got to spend the night somewhere. I'm missing my flight, but it's worth it. I got to stay here. And at the end of that meeting, one of the members of Congress, Vicente Gonzalez, good man out of Texas, looked at me and he said, Jeff, are you telling me that if we take these 2 sections out of this bill, then all of these phone calls and all of these emails will stop?
Yeah.
And I said, Congressman, they'll stop if you take it out. He said, then it's out.
Yes.
And the next day, the newest version of the bill had that completely stripped out. Then they realized they overstripped, and so then they just redid it again and only took out the stuff he promised me was going to come out, and it stayed out until the bill died in the Senate.
Uh,
But the key was that comment he said to me of, will all the phone calls stop? Because John and I got this industry riled up. And you start touching people's money, you start touching an investor's access to money, a flipper's access to money, and they start to care. It's one of those few times when these cheap, tightwad real estate investors will actually care because you're touching their money.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
This work is crazy. It's grueling. It's weird. You got to know people, right? You got to show up over missed flights. Why do you care so much about this stuff? Like, why do you keep trying so hard for what it is you're trying so hard to do?
I'm in therapy to try and figure that out. I'm sorry. There's a little truth to that, but it's this. I saw what real estate investing could do for an uncle of mine. Never got out of high school, never passed, never graduated from high school. Has a hard time with reading. Brilliant man, just his mind does not work. Dyslexia, attention deficit disorder. I love the man to death, but he became a multimillionaire through real estate investing. What you'd see him on the street and you'd think he was a bum the way he dresses. You're not realizing he's got $20 million sitting in the bank doing nothing, and he's got a bunch of free and clear houses. And he's just as happy as can be. But I saw if it could do that for him, what could it do this for me? Because I needed to make a change because I did not want my kids. I have five kids. I didn't want them to have the life I had growing up. I wanted them to have something. I wanted them to inherit something rather than just bad memories and bad attitudes. So that's one of the things that drives me. And now I've got a couple of grandkids, another one on the way, so that drives me a little bit even further. But it really comes down to this. God gave me a talent, and I have to exercise that talent to the best of my ability. And in so doing, if I can honor my Savior and point people to Him, that's great. That's a good deal.
I love that. There's a book that I just finished by John Bevere called Multiplying Your God Given Talent or God Given Impact. And it changed my perspective forever and made me realize the talents that I've been given, they're not specifically listed out in the Bible, right? To be a good attorney or to be a good paper writer or be a good this, but to be using those for the furthering of the kingdom, just to make sure that I use it as best as I can and I give it freely and not to be like, I kick up my feet and have a cocktail because I'm done and retired. Like, no, keep pressing forward. If you're going to be blessed in it, it's going to be fruitful and you're going to help so many people along the way.
I mean, for me, the idea is not how many doors can I control. It's not how many notes can I stuff inside of my IRA. It's not, what kind of option deals am I doing next? What's the newest, sexiest, craziest deal I've just done? Tiffany, I've done some crazy deals for clients. We're going to close the deal in the next few days where it required the governor of the state of Ohio to sign off. Yeah, I know. It's mind numbing, the stuff that I get to do nowadays. But it's not about the quality of the deals. It's not about bragging rights. It's about what kind of kingdom impact am I making?
Yeah.
If, if somebody can look at this and go, okay, I see it, you know, that's
That's incredible. Some of the things you continue to keep doing. So you're doing paper and you're kind of the king at the paper. Even I tell people, I'm like, listen, if you need paperwork done, I'm going to give you someone who's only licensed in Ohio and you can buy it from him. Go to his website, go here, please, and then bring it back to your own attorney. You got to know Jeff Watson. And that's
yeah.
just,
So the way that would work is I can give you paperwork that's going to get you, to use a football analogy, first and goal on your 5 yard line. And your local attorney's got 4 plays to cover 5 yards and get you into the end zone. And the key thing I'm going to tell you is it won't be perfect for where you are, but it's going to be really close. But you still got to get your local attorney, and don't let them rewrite it.
uh,
Make them change only what's necessary for the deal to comply with state law, because I've already stacked the deck as best I can without being horribly lopsided in favor of the investor party using the deal.
yeah. And these don't have to be extravagant 90 pages. These just need to protect everybody in the deal, make sure it checks every box in the government. Like,
Yep.
let's do
And
it.
the idea that, my biggest passion right now is in the self-directed IRA space. I mean,
Mm.
it just is. I mean, I've stood on the soapbox and screamed at the top of my lungs for 6 years now about the right way to do subject to, and most of the world is like enamored with, we just want to do it quick and fast to make our little bit of money and leave. And I go like, I want you to do it the right way, where you make hundreds of thousands of dollars by controlling the paper in the middle of the deal, rather than just, do this little assignment fee or entry fee or whatever they want to call it. And I don't get it, but we try and say, listen, stay in the middle of the deal. You got hundreds of thousands of dollars coming your way. But for me, it's the IRA space, because there is the opportunity to do good, have fun, make money, and pay no taxes.
Absolutely. It's already in a tax like savings vehicle or tax deferred vehicle. Why not go do really cool, lucrative stuff that's low risk in paper space in that vehicle? I'm
Yeah,
obsessed with self
yeah.
directed accounts as well, HSAs, solos. Like, let
But if we just go back and think about this, if I get to do good where I'm helping people, I'm funding a rehab on a beat up house. Okay, so I'm doing good. I'm making money. I'm having fun, and I get to do it tax free. What am I missing?
yeah, they'll dig up something. Somebody will comment, "What?"
Yeah, somebody will give some sort of thing, and I'll be like, well, how's that working out for you? Because most of the time when somebody throws those things in there, they've never done it. They've just heard about it or read about it on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the influential people and the advice that they've given you that you hold on to keep going.
Yeah, I'll give you the biggest one that stood out to me. The entire real estate investing industry in America lost a legend by the name of Dykes Boddiford in 2024 out of Atlanta, Georgia. Former aerospace engineer, rocket scientist turned real estate investor. Amazing, distinguished man, brilliant, kind-hearted, 100% accurate in everything he did. And I mean, his family still remains friends of mine today. We still connect. But Dykes pulled me aside one day on a rainy Saturday after we'd had a private mini mastermind with a dozen other guys up in Gravel Switch, Kentucky, of all places. By saying Gravel Switch, the people that were there will know who we're talking about. He pulled me aside and he said, be careful with whom you associate and with those who want to associate with you. Be careful, because you don't necessarily want to give your credibility to everybody that's there. And I thought, wow, that made me pull way back on who I choose to include in my circle, who I choose to do business with. Pulled me way back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because people forget about that kind of stuff. Like me, I give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt, like, hey, you're good people. I assume they're good people like me. And that's not a good idea.
You learn the hard way pretty quickly. Yeah. And I've got a few singe marks that we're still getting over, but yeah. And it doesn't mean it doesn't mean I'm ever going to stop trying. I'm going to give people a chance. But boy, the moment now when they start to show me that they're not who they are, I really got to be careful. I mean, my assistant and I just created another slide to go on a PowerPoint deck, and I'm going to share it with a bunch of other group leaders in the deal maker influence, where just association does not imply approval. Just because I'm invited to speak at an event, just because I share the stage with somebody, doesn't mean that they're as good as I am or I'm as good as they are.
That's great. Yeah, that's 100% true. Like, I want to get this information out there, but caution with everything you're given. I know what I'm doing is
Yeah.
correct, right?
Yeah. But yeah, and I'm just gonna go off on a riff, and let's see how this plays out. You and I spend a lot of time scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's where a lot of stuff gets communicated. And I just am shaking my head, kind of chuckling and just sad at the same time, about all of the people beating their chest, crying out, just panicking and hyperventilating over this little bit of a sideways market we've seen in the last 18 months. And I'm like, yeah, well, it tells me you've only been investing since 2012 or so. Because, I got into this business at the end of the Resolution Trust Corporation train wreck, where thousands of banks went out of business, hundreds of homes were foreclosed on, entire subdivisions foreclosed on. Then I started buying houses, and I remember the dot com going poof. 2000. Hey, does everybody remember 2001 with September 11th, 2001? Yeah, I was there. I watched it. Anybody remember the long-term cap where the hedge fund that got overcaught with a Russia situation and the market plummeted for a couple of days and liquidity froze? Yeah, I was there. Survived. Then 2008 through 12, everybody calls it 8 through 12. It was really 6 through 10. I survived it. So this little sideways aberration for the last 18 months,
Yeah.
gone. I mean, my cash is still flowing. My tenants are still paying. I don't care if the value's gone down by 8%. Oh, whoop-de-doo. They're still paying, you know? And I just laugh at some of these people because they're all transactional. They don't do a deal and expect to collect 300 payments off of it. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me go on that one. I appreciate that.
I agree. These are the kind of nuggets that I love to post as a short later on because it really is who's in it for the long game, who's in it for just what's going to happen tomorrow or next month or next week.
Right.
It's like when you
Yep.
buy correct, when you buy properly and you hedge for the 20 years, the 30 years or whatever, it's going to be okay. And if you don't, we got to figure out your portfolio a tiny bit.
So as soon as you said 20 years, it just triggered another thought. I wrote a book. We released it back in December called Boaz on Business, based upon the Old Testament book of Ruth. Because in Ruth chapter 2, Ruth chapter 3, and Ruth chapter 4, we meet a man by the name of Boaz, who was a brilliant real estate investor. He bought property for long-term purposes that it produced income. Okay. So Boaz was always thinking about many moves down the road. And the whole book of Ruth is about this amazing little love story. Fantastic chick flick. Great. Love it. But here's a man that knows how to run a business. Here's a man that has organizational structure, communication, and delegation, and all of these things laid out in his business. And you can see it when you start looking at how things run. But he also had foresight. He also had planning. He anticipated things. And he was willing to make a capital investment to buy a piece of land that he knew he would probably never farm,
Hmm,
but he knew his son would.
love that.
Now that's an investor. Yeah.
It's incredible.
And then just to give everybody a tease, Boaz had a son by the name of Obed. Obed had a son by the name of Jesse. Jesse had a son by the name of David. And then David had many sons, one of them which was by the name was Solomon. So when you start realizing David and Solomon are the great grandkids and great great grandkids of this dude Boaz, okay, must have been something there, you know?
Incredible wisdom littered throughout the
Yep.
Bible. So
Yep.
much business wisdom in there, life wisdom. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 But that 20-year comment that you made earlier really caught it because as I was interviewing a person in the book, Eddie Speed, he made the comment about his late father-in-law always looked at the deal through the lens of what will this deal look like in 20 years?
Hmm, right,
And we have so many people in this industry right now, Tiffany, that they're thinking about what this deal is going to look like in 20 days.
right. Those
Yeah.
are people who are freaking out a little bit about the interest rates and the insurance situation and the building and the take a deep breath and surround yourself with the people that are really doing business well right now.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
another multitude of counsel. There's wisdom in all of that.
Yeah. If they're doing business well, and hang out with people. Like I'm going to teach a class in a couple of weeks here in St. Pete. It's going to be an evening class with my friend Courtney Fricky. Courtney's not been investing as long as I have, but Courtney has gone in and found every Jack Miller newsletter she can get her hands on and is reading what Jack was writing and thinking in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. So she's putting the wisdom of this man who, I mean, there's a lot of people in this space that are considered the OG that learned from Jack Miller.
Yeah.
So she's putting Jack Miller's thoughts and strategies into her business through that. And I'm like, that's fantastic. That's brilliant.
I
So
mean, if anything, some of this real estate stuff is recycled thoughts through and through, but they've rebranded it. They've, the BRRRR method. I was like, why do you keep saying people keep saying that? I'm like, oh, you're flipping and pulling the money out.
yeah.
That's your new name. It's the same
And
thing.
Tiffany, I was doing that before they had a name for it.
Right, right. So these are all the
Yeah,
fun things and
yeah.
lessons. Hey,
I
at
mean,
this point, people are
I kind of
cooking.
laugh at the names that they come up with now, you know?
Oh, yeah. Like
Yeah.
the cool part is you have resources, you have intellectual property, you have this gift that you've been blessed with that you are writing, creating documents, and you're not gatekeeping them. You're like, hey, come out and come to my website. Let me know, follow me. I speak on this stuff. Where's your favorite way for people to come find you if they're like, I need to know you right now?
So the way I like to funnel everything is go to this website called watsoninvested.com. Watsoninvested.com. And there's two things you can do when you get there. Number one, you can sign up for my free email newsletter. We send it out about twice a week. It's free. We've been doing it for 12 years now. So we're getting kind of good at it, okay? We're working through some things. We got it. I mean, don't sign up for it and then not read it because then you're going to take my open rate down out of the high 20s and low 30s. And I don't want you to do that to me, okay?
Right.
We try and keep that open rate in the high 20s to the low 30s because that we like that number.
Well, that's great. And
So
then,
then
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Then free email newsletter. And then if you have a burning question about really a self-directed IRA transaction in any way, shape, or form, book a consult with me. Click on the link, find out a time that's mutually convenient for us. Go ahead, fill it out, put down your little deposit, and then we go from there when it's the appropriate time.
Absolutely. If you're doing a creative finance deal, I encourage you to listen to almost anything you could find with Jeff Watson on it because the creative way that you can do this stuff is not the cookie cutter stuff from the old seminar way when they're like, just do a 10-year, do a interest only, I'm like, what are you doing?
I mean,
You're, you know,
no two sellers have the same needs. So until you know what your seller needs, until you've actually had the time to have a conversation or several conversations with them to hear what they have to say, until you can ask them the right questions, you don't even know that begin how to structure this thing. Yeah, there's certain tools that we'll use, we'll adjust, we'll modify, but you know, not everything gets the big all cash hammer because it just doesn't work anymore. My favorite tool to lead with right now is because of where we are with what's going on in the market with interest rates and insurance costs and taxes and things like that. My favorite tool in a creative structure is simply say, listen, let me master lease your property with the right to buy it in the future. Give me a 5-year master lease on performance. I'll give you 80% of 75, 80% of the rent I collect off the property. Its title stays in your name. You're protected, Mr. Seller. You get the you because the title's in your name, you still got to insure it and pay taxes on it. All the little stuff that goes wrong up to a few $100 every month, I'll deal with. I'll put it out for rent. I'll manage it so you can escape the thrill of management. I'll take on that. And then I'll just handle the property. And they may not want to give me an option up front. They may want to give me the right to buy it. That's fine. Just give me a 5-year performance lease. Because if I get a 5-year performance lease, master lease with the right to sublease, where my rent is 80% of what I collect from somebody else, I got my hooks into that property. We'll work something out in the next 5 years.
incredibly. And the real estate
That
market's
that's
cool.
that's my go-to stick right now. I mean, 2 years ago I would lead with buy sub two.
Mhm.
Now I'm leading with this
Yeah.
because I'm adjusting to the market.
When the phrases start to be slightly familiar, but at the same time, tell me more, right? You can get them to lean in and
Yeah,
problem solve
yeah.
for them. That's
I mean,
awesome.
I tell you, I stole a line from Pete Fortunato, and then I mashed it together with a line from Eddie Speed, and I came up with this great term that I love to ask people. And I go, how would it feel to earn interest on money you would have otherwise paid in taxes?
Right. That's a good one.
And so I'm using the feel word. So I'm not, it's not logic. I'm going with your emotion now. How would it feel to earn money? So I'm greed gland. I'm trying to tickle your greed gland a little bit. Earn interest on money you would have otherwise paid in taxes. So then I'm like, oh, you're getting over on the IRS.
Mhm.
So now, so I just stuck three things in there to make you really want to know more. And that opens the door to a seller finance conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, that was a notable one liner. Go back, hit rewind, say it again. And then when you need paperwork for it, you know exactly where to go.
Yeah,
WatsonInvestment.com. Hey, this has been amazing. I love your time. What is the last little nugget or advice that you want to leave with everybody today?
that is a really good question, and I think I'm going to answer it with this one. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So start with your relationship with Jesus Christ, get that in place, and then go out and do some things that'll build a legacy so that you can give and live like so few ever thought they could do.
Wonderful. Give and live like no one else. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
You're amazing. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your time. And
This has been great, and I want to thank you for some of the things you've sent my way recently. It has been a huge blessing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I
Thank
love
you.
the power of networking, right? Tell
Yeah.
me what you need. I'll find it for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for staying. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.